My fiancé told me I should be grateful he still wants to marry me after my surgery. So I showed him exactly what I thought about that. I never thought I'd be the type of person to share my story on the internet, but after what happened this year, I need to get it off my chest. Maybe it'll help someone else who's stuck in the same cycle I was. I'm 28, and up until recently, I was engaged to a man named Tyler, 30. We had been together for almost 6 years. On paper, Tyler was a great partner. He had a stable job in IT, loved hiking and dogs, and got along well with my family. My friends always told me I was lucky to have someone who seemed so stable and put together. But behind closed doors, things weren't quite as perfect. Tyler had a way of making me feel small, not in a loud or aggressive way, but in subtle little comments that chipped away at me over time. If I wore a new outfit, he'd say, "That's cute, but maybe not very flattering." If I cooked dinner, he'd joke, "Not as good as my mom's, but nice try." I told myself it was just his sense of humor, that he didn't mean anything by it. And honestly, I think part of me believed I didn't deserve better. Fast forward to last year. I had to undergo major abdominal surgery for a health issue I've been quietly battling for years. I don't want to go into graphic detail, but it left me with a large scar across my stomach and about 20 pounds of unintentional weight loss. Recovery was brutal. During this time, Tyler was present, but not in the way I needed. He drove me to hospital, picked me up, made sure I had groceries stocked. But emotionally, he seemed distant, almost impatient, like he couldn't wait for me to get back to normal. I noticed he stopped touching me as much. If I tried to cuddle, he'd say he was tired. When I brought it up, he brushed it off. "You're imagining things." One night, about 3 weeks after my surgery, I was standing in front of the mirror in our bathroom, carefully changing my bandages. Tyler walked in without knocking. He looked at me, at my scar, and actually winced. I froze, and then he said the words that would replay in my head for weeks. "You should be grateful I still want to marry you after all that." I remember just staring at him, my brain struggling to process what he had just said. He didn't say it cruelly. He said it like it was an obvious fact, like he expected me to agree. I muttered something like, "Okay," and went to bed. But the next morning, when I woke up, I felt this deep, simmering anger. For the first time in years, I thought, wait, what if I don't want to marry him? Over the next few weeks, his attitude didn't improve. If anything, it got worse. He started making little digs about my appearance. "Maybe you should wear high-waisted stuff to cover that scar. When you gain the weight back, you'll look like your old self again. You don't want people staring at you on the honeymoon." Each comment was like a knife. And yet, I stayed quiet. I smiled. I told myself, we've been together so long. Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he'll change. But deep down, I knew. My best friend, Sarah, came to visit one Saturday. She hadn't seen me since before the surgery. When I opened the door, she hugged me tight and said, "You look beautiful. You're glowing." I almost burst into tears right there, because that one sentence, simple, genuine, was more kindness than I had gotten from Tyler in months. Later, while we were in the kitchen, she asked how Tyler was handling everything. I tried to brush it off, but she saw right through me. I finally confessed what he had said about being grateful. Sarah's jaw literally dropped. Then she said, "That's not love. That's control." Something in me clicked. That night, I lay in bed next to Tyler while he scrolled through his phone. I stared at the ring on my finger, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg him to see my worth anymore. I wasn't going to marry someone who thought of me as damaged goods. But instead of confronting him immediately, I decided to wait, to observe, to make sure I was absolutely certain before I ended a 6-year relationship. Over the next month, I kept mental notes. Every time he put me down, every time he withheld affection, every time he acted like my surgery was an inconvenience for him. The list grew long, too long. The final straw came during dinner with his parents. They'd invited us over for a casual Sunday meal. Halfway through, his mom asked how my recovery was going. Before I could answer, Tyler jumped in with, "She's fine, Mom. She just complains a lot. You'd think she's the first person to ever have a scar." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I felt my face burn. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. My scar was visible just above my waistband, a harsh pink line against pale skin. And I thought, why am I letting it make me hate myself for surviving? When I walked back out, I sat down at the table and said calmly, "Tyler, can I talk to you outside for a moment?" We stepped into the driveway. He looked annoyed, like I was interrupting his evening. That's when I told him, "I'm done. We're over. I don't want to marry you. In fact, I don't even want to live with you anymore." At first, he laughed, like he thought I was joking. When I didn't laugh back, his face twisted. "Are you serious? After everything I've done for you?" I reminded him what he had said after my surgery, about how I should be grateful. I told him how every comment, every dig, had chipped away at me until I realized I deserved so much better. He started yelling, said I was being dramatic, said no one else would want me with that scar. And that was the moment I knew I was making the right choice. I packed my things that week with Sarah's help. Tyler tried to guilt me, to shame me, even to beg at one point. But I didn't waver. When I handed him the engagement ring back, he sneered, "Good luck finding someone who puts up with you." Funny enough, I already felt lighter. It's been 8 months since that night. I'm living in a small apartment on my own, and I've never been happier. Recovery has been tough, but I'm strong. Stronger than I ever realized. The scar is still there, of course. But instead of seeing it as something shameful, I've started to see it as a reminder I survived. I healed, and I walked away from someone who couldn't see my worth. I've also started therapy, which has been life-changing. I'm learning to rebuild my self-esteem piece by piece. And who knows, maybe someday I'll meet someone who sees my scar and thinks it's beautiful. But even if I don't, I know I'll be okay. Because for the first time in years, I finally believe I deserve love, the kind that doesn't come with conditions. Sometimes I look back and wonder how I stayed so long, how I let his words become my inner voice. But then I remind myself, when you're in it, it's hard to see. If you're reading this and you're with someone who makes you feel small, who makes you feel like you should be grateful just to be with them, please hear me. You deserve better. You deserve kindness. You deserve love that lifts you up, not tears you down. And scars, whether physical or emotional, don't make you unworthy. They make you human. They make you resilient. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to not miss another story.